Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Wheel, a show dedicated to amplifying the voices of ordinary people who do some extraordinary things within their community. And today we are in Park City Music Hall. Get the name correct. With Alex Torres. So I walked into Harborview, and I seen this project, Humans of Harborview. So I gotta check out this project, find out who's the inspiration, who's the man behind the project. So we're here today with Alex Torres. Give it up for Alex Torres. Yes, Alex. So tell us who you are, how this whole project came about, man.
Yeah, so I've been a teacher in Bridgeport for the past 8 years, up until last year. And I was teaching high school biology at Central High School. Go Hilltoppers. And but at that same time, my wife and I have been doing some wedding photography, in our business, Beat and Blossom. We were doing wedding photography. And
Beat and Blossom?
Yeah, so it comes from our tattoos. So I got a beet tattooed to my arm.
Okay.
And my wife has magnolia blossoms on her other arm. And my mother-in-law is like, when we were trying to come up with a name, she's like, how about Blossom Beat and something like that. And Beat and Blossom, that's where it came from. So, and we did wedding photography. And over the course of that time, we had to learn a lot. 'Cause wedding photography is like it's an incubator for either good photography or bad photography, because it's hard. You're moving fast all the time. And so we tried to do work that was really authentic and add lights, but only to make it look better, not make it look different, but make it look clearer and stuff like that. And so we really got pretty good at, authentic lighting and lighting that. And so, but I never got to fully invest because I was teaching, my mental, my physical energy. So I do that on the weekends, but it was never a full-time gig for me. It was for her. And then I felt like the calling to stay as a teacher was kind of lifted on me last year. I really I'd been battling some anxiety and some issues for years on end, kind of coming to the same point every March. I would have like these anxiety and symptoms.
What is March Madness?
March is like the hardest. It's the hardest month for teaching. Because it's like it's the longest point between the end of February break and then spring break is years away. It feels like at that point, So you're like deep, and so I would always go into this like anxiety storm, and my vision would blur, and I would get headaches, and this happened for like 3 straight years. And finally, I was like, I really think that maybe I'm just not cut out for this in the long term. And so I decided I was going to leave and pursue photography. It wasn't a complete utter leap of faith. Like, I'm going to try this new thing. Like, we had something going, but not what we currently have going with portraiture and everything like that. But what came out of that and how Humans of Harborview came from that is that I just needed people to photograph. And so I was like, Harborview customers, that's my family. They'll sit for me. And then very quickly, my mom was like, well, it's 30 years of Harborview this year. It's like our anniversary, 30 years. I was like, wow, no, I hadn't even considered that. And she's like, well, why don't we do like an art show to celebrate this, in a kind of a big way? And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And why don't we start stories about our customers? Because that's why Harborview still exists. It's like the customers come year after year, day after day, right? They made the place. So let's celebrate the customers. I was like, man, this is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I was like, I wasn't thinking big picture. I was thinking very small. Like, I just need people to photograph, free photography, they'll be into it. And then it turned into like, okay, I need to take this seriously. And so that's when Humans of Harborview got together. Me and my buddy Al, we started dreaming this thing up, and now we're done. We just wrapped up portraits yesterday.
Wow, so 30 people.
24.
24,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Why 24?
Just that's how many people shared stories.
Okay.
And so what the final product is going to be is an art show at Harborview. It's on May 6th, so you got to come. And we're going to have like a grand opening. So it's just going to be pictures on a wall, no frames, just the photo right there mounted to the wall. But 24 people. It's actually, there's a grandfather and his granddaughter. There's a family is involved. A band that's dating, they're involved in this. So like, it's not just individuals, the whole thing. But then there's stories attached to that, which we're actually going to produce a magazine to share those stories, because we can't have people like leaning over tables like, excuse me, I'm trying to read the story over your head. So we couldn't put the stories on the wall. And so we're going to have a magazine, and the magazine's going to, you're going to open it, and you're going to have a picture on the left, so you're going to be able to engage with that, see, guess almost what's the story here, like who is this person, what are they about, and then you read the story, and then you look back at the photo, and it's going to be this thing. So it's like it's a lot of people telling their stories. You
Yeah.
know, some people about addictions that they've struggled with. Some people are talking about just like there's a guy in Fairfield who has a Brazilian jiu-jitsu studio. He talks about that and how it relates to his life. So some stories are just everyday stories. Some stories are really intense. And the whole point was just to get a span of who's the kind of person that comes into Harborview Market. And what we found was it's diverse. It's people have had serious trauma and great successes. And it's been fascinating. It's really been amazing.
Yeah, when I saw the first, I don't know who the first picture is.
That's Al.
That's Al?
I call him my rabbi, my guru for this because he's such a brilliant artist. And so that's Al, yeah.
Okay, that's his work.
I took that photo in here actually, and we did that I just needed practice, and then we got this one shot that was like, that's a killer shot, and then he added the typography to it of Humans of Harborview. We're like, that's actually going to be the magazine's cover.
That's going to be man. It was so incredible. I was like, there's got to be stories. So you see the photo and you're imagining, like, what's the background?
What's their deal, yeah.
So how did you, so you just come in and just snap the pictures and that's it?
So with the stories, they told the stories ahead of time, and then I reached out to them when we scheduled it. So we did 3 days. I just had, 15 slots a day, come sign up, and I just parked in the back here, set up my studio. The lighting never changed, so the lighting stays the same. They're all in black and white because I want to fade out. Like I created this space to take the photo, but it shouldn't be about me. You shouldn't look at the photo and say, look at what the photographer did. It should be, look at that subject. And so when you look at it on the wall, the lighting is always coming from the same direction. The posing is very similar even. And it's just the people who are going to stand out from that. And so we created those portraits, and I mean, some photos, there's one photo that I can't look at and not cry. People that come in, you have to guess which one that is, but I don't think it's going to be hard to tell.
It's going to be hard to tell.
It's not. It's so beautiful. And it's like an example. I didn't create it because I created the space. Sure, I'll give myself that. Like I set this up. But man, gentleman just came in. He did everything. He sang me songs. He told me stories, and I just snap. And then I was like, okay, see you later. And I look at the photos. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So there's some conversation that happens beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got the stories beforehand
ahead of time,
and then they coming in. You do this formal.
And we kind of rehash, and I asked them, what do you want your portraits to say? What are like 3 words? Boil it down for me. What are 3 words that you want your portrait to say? And so when I'm posing and we're talking, I'm kind of like sizing them up a little bit. Like, what are their natural mannerisms? How are they holding their hands? And what do they feel comfortable? Because when we say, go in front of a camera, have you seen that video of the kid that said, like, my dad, my husband, when he takes a picture of our son, and he says cheese, and the kid goes, cheese, and he has like a kind of silly look. And he says, my husband, when he takes a picture of our son, he says, say poop, and the kid's like, lights up. It's like, that's him, right? So you have to like get at people's inner, who they are. And what can happen is that if I just say, look at the camera and say cheese, it's not you. You're going, and you're making these faces that you're not typically doing. And so we have a full conversation beforehand, 10 minutes of sitting and talking, no camera involved, just chatting. And then from that, I'm saying, okay, I see how you hold your hands. I see how you hold your body. Let me just do things that are, with my posing, that's going to only make you look more flattering. And then the photo's you. So it's a lot of photos of people with kind eyes, but they're not like, cheese and smiling. There's some, because that's them. They're spunky, happy people, and so that naturally how they photograph. But for some people, that they're more chill. I don't think anyone's grimacing in them, but there's a range of emotions, and it's meant to give you a glimpse and make you wonder, what's the story here? Because they're all going to be on the wall, and you're going to look, and I think what's going to happen is that people are going to, just what we do, we kind of we judge to just like try to understand. We read emotions, and I bet that their story is going to be about this, and then you read their story and you go, man, I was not expecting that, and I think it's going to be a humbling experience. It was certainly a humbling experience for me, just to read these stories and meet these people and have preconceived notions like what they might look like, and then to meet them and the humanity of it all. Like, I just realized, like, man, this is my brother, this is my sister, and like, it's a trip, it's a real trip to kind of like watch your brain do its weird thing that it does, and then you're confronted with reality, and those two meet, and it's often like loggerheads. You kind of don't know what's going to come out of that.
So you've got these stories. It starts off, I just want to snap some pictures so I could, launch my business.
Right.
And now there's this work that's involved in it. Who wrote the stories?
They did.
They wrote the stories.
And I'm not really touching them. Like,
Okay.
I'm just taking the stories, going to turn it into Helvetica font. I don't know, some easy font to read and put it on a page. Like, I'm not really going to touch them at all. So it's really just what they wrote and what they wanted to say. So some people, like I said, some people have like a very short little thing, like it's only a paragraph long, and some people it's like a page and a half long of their whole story.
And it's going to be turned into a magazine.
Yeah, so that's going to be the destination for at least the stories, just because of practicality. We couldn't put them up on the wall, so we thought a magazine. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
So when I saw the project, I said, it would be cool to be able to hear their voices in the story and hear from you, the person like who started this. And as you were telling me initially, I was like, I should be talking to your mom. She's the brain behind this whole project. But the idea of
always,
huh?
She is always, she's a bit thinker.
It is, but it says something about you, though. To say, no, this was my thing, and this is just how I wanted to stay. But it's like it just kind of like grow.
Oh man, this has been a selfish endeavor for me because I'm growing as a human just by interacting with all these people, and that they've been as vulnerable. And you'll see some of these stories, and you realize that's vulnerable. Like, I don't know if I could be as vulnerable as some of these folks have been with their stories, because you're letting people in, and when you let people in, you don't know what they're going to do with that information. And so just to be on this receiving end of it, and then to give them a product, and it felt in a lot of ways like an act of service, but also like I felt served this whole time because I now understand people in a way that I previously didn't, and maybe just how our brains work. We stereotype in order to kind of like get a better understanding of things we don't know.
Yeah.
Now I have knowledge, and it doesn't align with a lot of maybe what I was thinking before, and so now I have a more full understanding of my community, and it's allowed me to reflect on how I look at people, and it's changing my heart. So I mean, I'm benefiting from this, just as much as anyone else, and so it's really truly been a community, building project, and I think it's going to continue on because they have this whole art show and everything.
So it's the magazine for sale.
Yeah, we're gonna, $10. Like I think
it's a commemorative edition. You got to get the magazine.
Yeah, I don't know, we're $10-15 just to help cover our costs. My mother and my father are being really generous, and they're funding this project. They're throwing me some money just to, I'm a freelancer now. I got to make a living, and they're paying for all the prints to go up on the wall, and they're going to front the money on the magazine. So we're just going to try and recoup a little bit of cash for them to.
That's going to be a collector's item, yo.
It's going to be special. I'm trying not to do, I'm trying to, have a glossy. It's going to look like those thick, like, hairstylist magazines with, like, the binder. Like, is this a magazine? Look, it's going to be, like, 50 pages long.
Wow.
Because, it's 24 portraits and 24 stories. My folks got photographed for this. My sister actually got photographed for this because my sister Gabby was basically raised at Harborview. Like, we all lived in Harborview, and we all worked there, and that was always a place. But, like, when my sister was born, like, Harborview was already a thing, and employees raised her. She, her customers. This is a gentleman, Paul Cresu, who just would color with her every day, every single day. And one of her best friends now, Tara Smiley, is a teacher at Black Rock School. She got photographed, and Tara raised Gabby, from 2 years old. They were best buds,
This is, I go into it for the peanut butter. And
so a lot of people know Harborview as the cookies.
The cookies. I'm coming to get my peanut butter and the sea salt, right? Yeah. But there's something about the place.
Yeah.
How long has it been there?
30 years.
30 years.
30 years, yeah. I mean, the building's been there for like 100 years.
Yeah, and so it went through a fire. It used to be a grocery store.
I can't remember what. I mean, back in the day, it used to be, I think, a factory. Because my dad tells me that like the electricity that runs in there is like 240, like to run big equipment. So it's some kind of larger scale project was going on in there. And then 30 years ago, when we were kind of taking it over, there was. My parents are going to tell this story in the magazine. So you really want to know the whole story. You have to read the magazine. But from what I remember is that. Basically, they wanted to tear down Harborview and turn it into high-rise like apartments, and the community got together, shouted it down, got rid of that thing, and then Harborview existed. And it's this amazing thing because it's like a business in a neighborhood. Yeah, no one else could ever do this. It's like we're grandfathered in. It's like you could never open a business in like a residential neighborhood like this. And so it has this feeling of just home, and people come in and camp out. You can work there for the cost of a cup of coffee for a couple hours. It's crazy. It's just this like nowhere else on earth. It's this amazing place. Yeah. So it's been a pleasure to, reflect on that, because I grew up in it, and I just walk in, grab my coffee, walk out. It's like that, kind of like my own living room.
Mm-hmm.
But then to step back and say, wow, this is how the rest of my community experiences this place. It's it's humbling.
And so May 6th?
May 6th, from 5 to 7, we're gonna have a nice art opening, and light hors d'oeuvres and drinks and stuff like that. But I'm gonna speak about the project a little bit at some point up there. But it's just gonna be a celebration of all the people and their stories, and I think it's gonna be really great.
All right. Yo, thank you so very much, Alex. May 6th, 5 to 7 p.m.
Harborview Market.
Harborview Market.
Yeah, Black Rock.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
All right, man.